Football Less is brought to you by PCNFS Logistics. There is only one football, fine football replicas. See City Lawyers and lawyers that come to you. And Arrow Sports, fine playing kits for all the clubs.
Welcome to Football Less, everyone. Right now we've got a massive guest tonight. We've got someone from Italy, someone from Sydney, but the Sydney side hasn't got me. Football Less brought to you by PCNF Logistics, shipping and distributors throughout Australia. There's only one football. The cup of life, this is the one. Now is the time, don't ever stop. We should've known, gotta be strong. We should've known right from the top. And when you feel the heat, the world is at your feet. No one can hold you back if you really want it. I see it in your eyes, you want the cup of life. It's nice the days when you're gonna get it. Do you really want it? Tell me right now, people, here we go! Here we go! We are the people, we are the passion, we are the history. Boy, we're going back to history. We've got somebody here right now from the NSL, the original guy, Mr. Andrew Paschalidis. Thank you for joining us, Andy. Thank you for joining us, Roy. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Welcome, Andy. Of course, boys, of course.
Good to be here, Harry.
Of course, this is the craziest show on the planet, as they call me, the soccer psycho. Here we go right now with Angelo Piccolo from Italy and Kenny Wilson. Here, boys, welcome to me as well. I tell you what, mate. I tell you what, boys. This is going to be an amazing night. We've got so many people. We've got that many people watching. It's not funny. It's that many people right now. They're going to be commenting very shortly. Now, Andy, you must be missing the NSL, mate. You must. Watching just a few minutes ago, mate. The NSL is really what it was. That's what it was, mate. That was the party, the game, the partying and everything. You know that.
Look, you can look at it in several ways. I suspect for many of us like me and others, sons and daughters of immigrants that came out here after the Second World War, and we were brought up on football. And my dad used to take me to watch Panhellenic, which Kenny knows only too well, which is the precursor to Sydney Olympics.
You see that? There you go.
Yeah, I remember going to Wentworth Park. I remember going to Lambert Park, Marconi. As an 8, 9-year-old, and it's embedded in you. So that's the sport you play. And look, we were blessed that a National League started, I think, Kenny, you correct me, 77?
77, yeah.
Yeah, 77, the Phillips Soccer League. Yeah. And little did I know that within, 6 or 7 years of that launch, that, Les Murray would ask me to test me out down at Wollongong because he couldn't get anyone to drive from Sydney to Wollongong. And I was cadet journalist with Australian Soccer Weekly, and I was going to radio school, and he just said to me, he goes, look, you know what, look, if the commentary's okay, I'll use it. If it's not, I'll have to revoice it. As it turned out, I think from memory, it might have been John Bradley for Apia has scored a dipping volley at Raji Park in Wollongong, and Apia beat the Wolves 3-0. It got goal of the week. Les called me in. Bang, he goes, you're doing every Wollongong game. And within 2 years, I was hosting sports shows there and commentating, working full-time and enjoying an amazing journey, watching the evolution of those great players as youngsters. Let's go back, I commentated for Durka's debut and so many great Aussie footballers, and to be part of the precursor to the golden generation. And to sum it up, for me, on the weekend, I was at the Unite round with my charity, Heartbeat of Football, doing what we do, free checkups at the live site. And I have to thank the A-Leagues because they put their hand up and they supported us. But I had so many people coming up to me just going, Andy, oh, my God, we miss you, this, that, all about the NSL, quite literally. And they're wearing Perth Glory shirts, taking selfies, and Wellington Phoenix, an Indian guy. He goes, I was in Sydney, I was 9 years old, I grew up watching you, and Johnny and Les. So you don't realise the impact that league has until it's over. And as the years move on, I think to myself, I'm 62. How old were these people then? Because anyone under 50, I would always think, wouldn't even know what the NSL was. Exactly. They wouldn't have known that it existed.
And the thing is, Angelo, you remember those days back to you were involved at, of course, at Adelaide City. You were there. You were the boss there at some stage. My God, mate, what are we missing out, Angelo? What are we missing out on?
Well, the first thing I want to say is I really appreciate you inviting me on the show with Andrew Paschalidis, because he's one of the guys I've admired all my life. And I think when you say what's missing, the first thing is passion. Because I think when Andy started, and whether he was commentating or comparing a show, watching a show, or even commentating the NSL or the Socceroos, you could hear in his voice the passion, and the game would be heightened by that. It was absolutely amazing. I'm not just saying this because he's on the show. We've had discussions off the show as well. But as a kid growing up, and also being involved with the game, I've always said to you, Harry and Kenny, on this show, that the thing that's missing right now is passion, and that's not just in terms of the commentating. It's in terms of the media, in terms of interest. I think passion has a lot to do with it, because I remember when I was working with Adelaide United, when we first started with Basil Scarcella and everybody else on the board, I would go home, and I'm not just boasting, I just mean this as an example. I would go home at 10 p.m. and I would send my last media release, and then I'd get a call from Mark Haston and say, "What were you doing at 10 p.m. in the office?" Well, what I'm trying to say here is not, grandstand or anything. I'm just trying to say that the extra passion, the extra mile that I did and everybody else did in those days brought us back advertising, publicity, and, we got the extra mileage that we needed, because obviously when we compared to the AFL, the rugby league and all the other codes, we had to work extra to get maybe half of the coverage what they were getting. And I think Andy would know what I'm talking about. So great to be with you.
Angela, one thing sums it up for me, obviously, with SBS. What you would do is you would watch international games coming in. On Saturday, we'd all rush home from our game and watch World Soccer with Les, and Sunday morning Serie A with Martin Tyler, Johnny and Andy doing On the Ball, and then we'd live match of the day, or you'd go to your game. Then on Monday night, the highlights, Olympic Airways 1 hour highlights, and you switch to the ABC to watch the English football. That was our staple diet. It was free. It was free. That's the first thing. It was free. It was accessible. Our game was accessible. Is it accessible now? It's accessible in certain elements. So we had a product that we were all proud of, because it was built on the foundations of multicultural Australia. And let's not forget the British, the impact that they have had in football from years before that. But then we had this wonderful migration of English-Scottish players that added true value to those young kids of ethnic background born here, along with those other ethnic players that come. So someone said to me recently, Andy, off the top of your head, 5 technical players that you loved. I go, oh, geez, you're throwing me in there, but you don't look past your Alan Davidsons, your Oscar Krinos, your Peter Catholicis, your Vedran Rosic's, your Joshua Biskic's. There's so many amazing, talented, skillful players that they were heroes. You wanted to go and watch. Now, with the A-League, who are we going to watch unless they're a Del Piero, one of those big, big names that are going to deliver? We haven't had that. We've had some wonderful Australian players come through the system on the A-League, absolutely. But back then, you could pick any team, and I used to love watching John Markovsky, Paul Trimboli when they were teenagers. That was sensational. I was thinking, why aren't they in Europe? They were teenage. They were 16, 17, playing with grown men. And back then, the best thing about the National League was the youth league was played before it. So if a first grade player pulled up lame in pre-match warm-up, there was a 17-year-old kid being told, you know what, champion, you're on the bench for first grade today. Yes, it's the big derby, Sydney Olympic Marconi, but sit there and enjoy and take it in, son. Take it in.
And that's the point. And of course, what I'll say is, Kenny, you were there. You were in the Sydney was the centre of the universe of the NSL. The majority of clubs were there. They were the centre of it. That was the centre of the NSL universe. Kenny, you were there, mate. You seen things you never seen before. Kenny, tell us about that.
Well, I mean, look. In fairness, it was we speak about it all the time. 77 to 84. Yeah. Was the glory years. The minute they cannibalised it and zoned it, it was never a national league anymore. It was never the same. And it was always going to wind down, in my opinion, because of that. But going back to what you're saying, and I saw Andy shaking his head, he's quite right. You had the Heidelbergs, you had the Adelaide Cities, you had the Hakoas, you had the Marconis, you had, there was even West Adelaide won the NSL in, was it 79, 78, 79, under Jim Adam. Yeah. And just mentioning Jim Adam, a character beyond belief. But we were fortunate to get him to Sydney Olympic after we get relegated, and he took us back up in the first season, and then got the sack for Tommy Docherty. It could only happen in the NSL, but there was teams coming from everywhere. I've mentioned it many times. I think my second or third game for Olympic in '77 was against Footscray Just. They had 8 ex-Red Star players in that team. Marconi had Vieri. They had, there was so many of them.
Vieri was a freak.
Oh, he was just, and let me tell you, I think he was 36 or 37, but I've never seen a player next to Modric. Modric's probably very close to Vieri and similar in the way he plays, creating 3 or 4 yards of space when you think you're marking him, and he just loses you for 3 or 4 seconds. And his first touch and his vision was just incredible.
Kenny, I'll throw one name up. I just threw a couple of names earlier, but now what you're telling me now, I'm starting to think of 2 things, right? Someone like Kenny Bowden, who was a freak, right? Kenny Bowden was a freak. But one of the great stories, and now if I was still at SBS and we still had the football rights, I would do a 1-hour documentary on Alex Jamieson and the evolution to Scott Jamieson. So you got NSL football into A-League football by 2 generations. Exactly. These are wonderful stories of our game, and these are stories that should be told. Imagine going, back home to Alex's place, going through his photo album and showing all the photos of him at Sydney Olympic and little Scotty.
Me and him grew up together. Yeah, we came together, right?
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
I really didn't know that.
Yeah, we grew up together since we were 11 years old. The reason I'm here is because of Alec. Because Alec got free at Ipswich, I got a free transfer at Rangers. The Players Football Association contacted Alec and said that Sydney Olympic were looking for a couple of players. And he said, well, I'm available, and my mate's just been freed by Rangers. He's available. So Johnny Thompson contacted us, because we're from Clydebank, as is Jerry Conley, the referee, Gary McDowell's from Drumchapel. I mean, we punch way above our weight. So me and Alec, obviously, go back to school days and we were best mates.
But Kenny, you think of all these players now? The names are coming into my head now, willy-nilly. Dave Provan, Dixie Deans. So many of these great players came before the A-League really kicked. Before the NSL, I should say, really kicked off on SBS, because SBS didn't start until 1982. So there was a 5-year period. The old NSL, remember we used to watch German football at 7:30 on a Saturday morning on Channel 10.
Channel A28, Channel A28.
When I arrived in 77, Channel 10 had the highlights on at 10 o'clock at night on a Monday night. And it was buried. But the reality, you've got Alan Davidson and his son. You could do that with 2 or 3. There's probably 2 or 3.
You can do that.
You could do that. But we've gone back to Alex.
Well, we've got a few now.
We have.
Popovich, Vidmar.
Yeah. Well, as far as Alex is concerned, unfortunately, Alec got a bit of a bad injury, but Alec was a magnificent player, and Scott had a fantastic career. And to be honest, Scott probably would have still been at Bolton Wanderers if Sam Allardyce hadn't got the sack, because Sam Allardyce loved Scott, and he got the sack. New coach came in. Different ideas, moved them on. But for us, it was fortunate because he's had a fantastic career.
Yeah, one thing I want to throw out there to everyone is that people say to me, and a lot of kids go overseas, I believe too young. The one good thing about the NSL is that a lot of our players that made it in Europe were here for 3 or 4 solid seasons of National Soccer League football, where they were late teens. Like I mentioned, the Duker at 19 making his debut and so on, the Slaters, the Arnolds, all these guys, but they stayed here for a few seasons. They were battle-toughened. And when they went to Europe, they had to even go another level to prove themselves amongst so many other young players trying to go the similar path. So the A-League hasn't really let itself. I mean, the most recent case is probably Hayden Matthews at Sydney FC. One standout season. His club have stopped him from going to England, and now he makes his Socceroo debut, which is a wonderful story. I know that family well. Stevie's old man's a wonderful guy. But they're few and far between those sorts of stories. You know what I mean? At least back then, the NSL, for me, aside from the fact that it had that passion, that history, the ethnic rivalries, it really gave those young men a platform to set themselves up so they were ready to go. Like, I made a video when I was at SBS for Robbie Slater, right? I made a few videos for footballers. On that video alone, clubs were saying, okay, come over here. We've seen enough. Subject to a fitness, we're signing you. Graham Arnold rings the other, goes, Andy, that video you did for Robbie, well, I'm in that as well. I've just got a contract in Holland. I said, good on you, Arnie, knock yourself out. Mate, you owe me a beer. I should have been an agent.
You should have been an agent.
Now.
Jesus,
mate, you were an agent. You dabbled as an agent. You had a bit of a dabble during the years.
I've had a couple of players I've helped, like Matthew Bingley, I helped him go to Japan. Now, Marconi would have got no money because he was turning 26. I said to Tony Labzetta, you got about $250,000 right now on a transfer. He's going to earn 5 times more. His father was battling cancer. There was bills everywhere, and that helped set up Matty, and he was there in Japan for 3 years. And again, they're few and far between, but Venables obviously loved Matty, so he was high collateral at that time because he was in the national team as well. And actually, Bingley was another teenage prodigy. You talk about teenage prodigies that Arok worked on. Like Slater came from third grade Auburn to go to St George. And the Andrew Koskas, the Craig Moffats, the Zoran Illiches, there were so many. David Strulich was a St George player. But people don't really know that sort of history until they launched themselves in the National League, which David did at Sydney United. Exactly. Or, as Graham Arnold tells me, he goes, Andy, I played for Sydney Croatia. It wasn't Sydney United then. He always corrects me publicly. But I love the fact that, in Sydney, as Harry said, we might have been a hub, but don't take anything away from Melbourne and Adelaide. No. The Adelaide derbies, I did a couple of those. They were always wars as well. In Melbourne, when Melbourne played South Melbourne,
oh boy,
God help you.
Oh, mate, I was at these games. Don't worry, Andy. I know exactly what you took. And let me say one thing about this too right now. We're going back to the past in the NPL Victoria next year. We're going back to the past. And everybody should know this. We're going back to the days of South Melbourne, and of course, Preston Lions, Preston Macedonia. So we're going back to the NSL. There's going to be NSL derbies again in NPL Victoria. We're going to call them NSL derbies. We don't care about the NPL. And of course, and of course, let me just say out there, guys, don't forget this year, and of course they're saying about October, November, December. We don't want to start on that. We'll talk about it on another show. The second tier starting as a Champions League model, and we're going to talk about that in the next few months when the NPL starts, because we'll know exactly what's happening there. But let me just say, Angelo, now, the thing about this is also we talk about the Socceroos. We're going to talk about the Socceroos for a moment, guys. I mean, that game against Bahrain, and did you see that, Angelo, that game? I was very disappointed, Angie. That mistake from our goalkeeper, Matt Ryan, he comes on all of a sudden, he plays the game, and what does he do? He goes that far out, Kenny. I'm going to start with you first. As you said to me, Kenny, don't start me. You say, don't start me about goalkeepers playing out as sweepers. This is what you were telling me a few weeks ago. Remember that crap?
I mean, mate, it's honestly, it's one of the burdens of the game in the last 10 years. When we've tried to turn goalkeepers into outfield players. My God. And unfortunately, it makes teams look so robotic because it's an easy option. I guarantee you, 99% when I was playing, if the coach, whoever the coach was, it could be Raleigh, could be Raul, it could be Arok. If you played it backwards when you could play it forward, you get hooked. You would get hooked. None of this easy options, play it back. You got Eddie Thompson, the Hakoah, the Sydney City team. Everything's forward. Get it in behind people. Take chances. The way the game's gone has become so robotic, and against well-organised teams, you won't break them down because you don't move the ball, you don't transit the ball quick enough.
So we're trying to bring another player on the field. Andy, it looks like, Andy, that our goalkeepers are becoming like, what's his name? Rene Higuita. We're going to get a goalkeeper one day that's going to be, we're going to call him Rene Higuita, mate. What? You remember him? Oh, boy. It's looking that way now.
Yeah, I think, the original keeper for me was, what was the Mexican keeper's name? From about...
Not Holgate, Campos. I seen him play.
I think he got assassinated, didn't he?
Mate.
No, that was Escobar you're thinking of, mate.
I think there's a few of them disappeared, mate. I think there's a few of them haven't been seen.
Oh boy.
I met him in '94 at the World Cup in the United States. I met Valderrama and Higuita and Esprilla and quite a few, but the sweeper keeper is an interesting one because I'm an old keeper from way back, even though I'm 4'2". But I always played with my feet because when I played junior reps in the Canterbury Association, we had a guy next to us called Peter Escopoulos.
Oh, okay.
So as a reserve, as the number 2 keeper to Andrew Koska's brother, John, I would play left midfield. Rasko would say to me before the game, Andy, when you get the ball, just give it to me. I do everything else. Fantastic. Now keepers, because of this possession game and building it from the back, if they can't play with their feet, I guarantee, and Kenny will correct me if I'm wrong, you go back to the NSL, and I'm starting to think of Terry Greedy's, Gary Myers, and Pisano's. I couldn't envisage them playing the ball with their feet. I couldn't envisage them being capable because you never had to.
No, but they were shot stoppers, mate. That's what they were. That's what they were meant to do, and they were fantastic at it.
Absolutely,
so we've pardon the pun, but we've moved the goalposts.
Exactly.
And that's unfair for anyone that wants to be a goalkeeper because they've got to be able to play with their feet. They'll be brilliant shot stoppers, but if they can't play with their feet, they're down the pecking order.
It's changed.
And that's unfortunate. It's changed goalkeeping so much so. So much so.
Let me say one thing.
We saw it in the Premier League this morning, playing it out of the back. Which Premier League game was it? Was it the Ipswich Man U game? I can't remember which one.
Well, Ipswich Man U, and there was Liverpool as well.
It played it out of the back. It might have been the Liverpool game. And again, Cooper's trying to play it to his teammate inside the box, and they stuff around with it and then get punished. Mate, whatever happened to root one ball, just knock it, go for the 50-50. Go 50-50 or phone a friend. Phone a friend.
Long ball, mate. Long ball, and that happened a few weeks ago. And of course, was it the Melbourne City goalkeeper who had the ball at his feet, and all of a sudden he was that slow. Remember that goal? The guy just walked in and kicked a goal. I mean, don't they look at kick the ball out, mate? Don't be so slow. And he got a goal from that. That's the thing. So, guys, it's mistakes galore from goalkeepers. Now I want to talk about Angela. Did you see that Socceroo game at all? Did you see the replay at all?
Yeah, no, I watch all the games. Obviously, I live in Italy, but I have a very good interest, and obviously, I think Tony Popovic, since he stepped in, he's 1-1, drawn 2, but he's just trying to restrict the bleeding at the back line because, he's actually done a good job, in terms of not conceding a lot of goals and also trying to get results. And I think that the top of squad that he's got, I want to compare the squad because Andy will do that better than me in terms of the talent that he's got in that 25-26-man squad. He can only do certain things. He cannot play adventurous, creative football, as Kenny said a couple of weeks ago. I think he's restricted to trying to get a result and trying to stay second. Maintain their second spot. But once Saudi Arabia, you mentioned Saudi Arabia, they're missing about 4 or 5 key players. Right. But once they get all their players back, there'll be different results. I think that they'll be fighting for that second spot with Australia. But I'm a little bit disappointed that we didn't get a better result in Bahrain because I think that
we should have got that.
We could have won the game. We should have won that game. And I think that if we had won that game, then we would have got renewed confidence as we did in Adelaide with China. That was a bit of a liar as well. I think, getting that result against China did play pretty well in about 30, 40 minutes of the game, and they could have actually scored some goals. But to answer your question, watching that game in Bahrain, I did expect more from the group of players, like For example, Craig Goodwin played from the start, and he was missing the game before, and he had better. He made about 5 or 6 changes, and I expected to win that game, but obviously we didn't. So I think we're struggle to maintain that second spot.
Andy, what I want to talk to you and you guys listening right now too is that I tell you what, I saw that game between Saudi and Indonesia, and I said, "You've got to be joking. You have got to be kidding me." And Kenny said that a few weeks ago too. Kenny, you said, "Watch out for these boys. They're coming in. Their families are."
Yep.
Well, families, and let me say one thing, Kenny, about that before you come on. The one thing about this is every time they play a qualifier, they get better. They're getting better. And to score 2 goals against Saudi, I saw this kid, 20-year-old kid, Marcelinho, who is half Indonesian, half Filipino. Mate, I tell you what, this kid is going to be, you got no idea. We are playing them next. It's going to be unbelievable.
Mate, the world's woken up. We've been doing it since 1969. We've been naturalising people who have got no Australian links.
That's right.
Yeah. The majority of go through the rally team 74, Germans, Scottish, none of them were Australian. They were naturalised, right? Right through to Frank Arnott's team and Eddie's team, even Venables' team to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you look at them, the majority of the boys came from the UK or Europe or South America. So the point I'm going to make is Indonesia, the starting 11 has got about 8 naturalised players in it.
That's right.
Yeah.
8. And they're all European, Croatian, British, and I don't understand why people are so surprised.
No,
we should be beating them. Why should we be beating them? Our progression in the last 5 years has stopped dead. Asia and Middle East has raced past us at a dramatic level. There's no way in the world we're going to beat Japan. So, sorry, hand on heart. Japan is way too strong for us. The point that Angelo made. Saudi Arabia get the 4 or 5 players back, and we've got to go to Saudi.
See you later.
A huge task.
That's why you got to keep winning.
China is going to be a huge task. Yeah. And let me tell you, I don't see us getting second. I can't for the life of me. Hand on heart, I hope we do, but I don't see it. There's nothing on the way we're playing will tell me that we're capable of winning games. We haven't changed. We don't look any different. We don't look as though we're going to score goals. If Craig Goodwin's not playing, we run out of ideas. Creativity, we just plod.
The sad reality, Kenny. The sad reality is that we've just struggled for a consistent scorer since Carl retired, and we just haven't been able to fill that gap. And for whatever reason, we've tried some young guys of African background, who obviously, and Mitch Duke and so many others. But it's a difficult task for Tony. So you're trying to counter-attack against opposing teams in Asia. And you don't have that firepower up the top end, that attacking third. We've created some great chances and not taken them. And you touched on Indonesia. It's a very valid point. The other Asian countries have been awake. And we've just, because we've qualified for each World Cup since 2006, but we've always just got there. That's the thing. It's not like we've dominated groups and like Japan are dominating now. And Indonesia, I remember going there in 2007, commentating the Asian Cup. Mm-hmm. I walked into that stadium. I shat myself, mate. There was 80,000 people in there.
Yeah, I remember it too.
It was just the most intimidating place that I'd ever been to at that. And I'd been to World Cups and Euros and whatever, and I saw 300 security guys with the big shields and AK-47s at the ready, and I'm like, have I come to a war here? Mm-hmm. And Saudi Arabia played Indonesia that day, and Saudi Arabia was favourites. So,
honestly.
Yeah. Can I just make a point about, obviously goal scorers, but we really lack creative midfield players, guys.
Yeah.
Seriously. And I have to take task to the point that Tony Popovic, the reality is that Arnie had the same issue, but no one was saying, Arnie's got the same problem. All of a sudden everyone's going, Tony's got this. Well, what about Arnie? Arnie had the same issues. What was he supposed to do?
Hey, Kenny, were you surprised Were you surprised that Arnie didn't look to get a big job after what he did at the last World Cup? Because I thought if there was a moment for him to go into clubland overseas like Ange has done and others, and look at Muskie, oh my God, amazing. Yeah. I just thought that was the time because we did very well. The world is watching. You know,
you're right.
I don't know.
Can I say to you, because obviously he's a friend of mine. Mate, he loves Australia.
Yeah.
You don't realise that he's, he rolls his sleeves up and he copped that much abuse, and as much as Ange, we all adore Ange, but Ange went within half a centimetre of getting knocked out the World Cup
big time.
On the post, and we had to go the long way. And what I admire Ange for is he pulled the plug because he knew with that team he wasn't going to win a game at the World Cup. He's a genius, right? And he moved, at the right time. God love him.
Hey.
Arnie, exactly what you said. What Arnie should have, and he had offers. Let me tell you, there was offers for me to go to the UK.
Is one in Scotland? What's one in Scotland as well? Hibernian?
He had a couple. Yeah, he had a few. And the reality was that he wanted to take it through at the end. But I think it got to the point where he's looking at it and going, he's done what he could do. People are blaming him and saying, well, he doesn't. He's getting delivered these players. He's not making the players. This is our elite football players. But he'll get guaranteed. You watch this space. January, February, March. He'll get a big gig.
He'll get a big gig. He's experienced.
I was with him last week. We had a big lunch, and he's coming in. He's relaxing. He's looking fresh. He's looking relaxed. He needed a break. He'll come back with a bounce. Don't worry.
And being a granddad too. That's also always
absolutely.
But talking of Ange, right? I was so proud to see how his team rebounded because I thought if he got dusted at Manchester,
he'd be stuffed.
The guns would have been loaded on Ange Postecoglou. And for me, that was one of and probably his greatest club result, with all due respect to what he did in Celtic, in a league stage.
The ironic thing, Andy, is Ange was in the Man City environment, right? Obviously, he's gone from even his Japanese team, Celtic. It was all the Man City environment. So to go there and Pep, how many times did he visit Man City when he was here? People don't realise that he was part of the Man City
football group.
At the end, the subtle hug at the end told you enough, didn't it?
Yeah, but he's the problem with Tottenham, and I've got we'll let Angelo come on and speak for a minute soon because we're not giving him much to say. But
exactly,
I have to say I've got heaps of Tottenham fans, but they're liable to next week to go out and get beat by Southampton. That's the. But the interesting fact, I just looked at. I'm not a big stats guy, but they're the top goal scorers in the Premier League at the moment.
Tottenham.
Yep.
There you go.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
The thing is,
I just noticed it today.
Let me tell you about. I didn't want to put up. I found a video of Pep Guardiola after the game. I can't put it up. There's no way I can put that up. You should have seen. You might have seen it, Angelo, and you might. I don't want to put it up. You should have seen the screaming, and it's like the guy needs to go to a mental institution. If I put that up, mate, the way he said things, 4 games in a row, he's throwing things in the room and everything, mate. I don't want to give that to anyone. Andy, I'm serious. Didn't want to put it up. I saw it. I didn't want to put it up. Mate, the pressure on him now is unbelievable. 4 in a row. Is that right, Kenny, too? And Angelo, 4 in a row?
Mate, it could be 6 in a row by next weekend because they've got Champions League on Thursday and then they play Liverpool on Sunday.
Jesus.
So it could be 6.
Mate, he could be gone. Angelo.
I mean, they're missing, mate, De Bruyne, Rodri, when you're missing these type of quality players, Rodri's the best defensive midfield player in the world, in my opinion. And De Bruyne's probably in the top 5 midfield players in the world. Yeah. So when you don't have they two, Haaland's not getting the service.
Nope.
And that's the first time that they've been beaten 4-0 at Etihad in their history.
Jesus, mate, that was bad. Now, Angelo, what's the word in Italy about that game? You've heard a few things around there, of course. You're closer to Europe, you'll be hearing a lot more. But as I said, that video, there's no way I wanted to put it up. Mate, if kids saw that, and parents saw that, they'd have a go at me. So what have you heard, Angelo?
Well, I think Andy and Kenny both could locate it, could find it pretty easily. You know, it's actually the first time I've ever seen Guardiola react in a group, and you can see,
seen it?
For example, if I can just play the whole change room, you see all the players sitting there disillusioned, and he's having a go, a real go. And I don't know whether it's going to turn into a positive for the group or negative. You know, as Kenny said, there's the Champions League, and they've got a tough group. But I just want to say something about Matty Ryan, because I was in Adelaide for about 3 weeks, a few weeks ago, and Matty Ryan obviously plays for Roma. Napoli, my favourite team, played Roma last night. But I know that there's a bit of a write-up about Matty Ryan, but he's actually not playing. And I think that's part of the problem. I think he would have made that blunder, in that game. As Andy would know, if a goalkeeper trains the house down, but he doesn't play, there is a problem with this sort of the
pressure.
The speed of the game when the ball comes back. Unfortunately, you can be the best keeper in the world, but if you don't play for about 6 months, it's going to be a problem, and it was a problem. I think had he not made that error, maybe we could have won the game. So it was a costly mistake. I just want to say that about Matty Ryan. Very proud to have him here. I feel proud to have players. It's in Italy,
I've got to ask you about a terrific Scottish player that Man United let go, McTominay. He's set Serie A alive. He's absolutely killing it there.
Yeah.
I mean, it really puts Man United in a bad light, mate. It really, doesn't it?
It does.
Kenny, you'll have to start barracking for Napoli, because we got 2 Scotsmen.
Jeez.
We got Gilmore and McTominay.
Who have you got? Oh, you got Gilmore as well. I forgot.
It's become a Scottish. Are the colours navy blue there too?
And there's another one that I'd dearly love to have at Napoli, but he's playing Bologna, and that's Ferguson. He's captain of Bologna, and they had a stellar season last year. As you know, they made the Champions League. But just going back to some of these games, that the soccer was set up, Andy, you'd be able to answer this better. I think that Tony Popovich will struggle to have a squad good enough to make their second spot. But even if they fail their second spot, having said that, there's 48 teams that qualify for the next year, so they might have another chance. I'm happy for Tony Popovich, but with that squad, I think he's really going to struggle to maintain that second spot.
My over 45, my over 55 team might qualify for the World Cup. The amount of teams that are in it.
I have a message, boys. I have a message from someone here right now. Of course, I'll tell you who he is as soon as I read it out to you. Enjoying the Football Brains Trust, informative and entertaining. Now, who would say that?
Kenny Taylor?
No, Mark Trento. Mark Trento. There you go, boys. Now, let me just say one thing. Go on, Andy.
Sorry, I was just going to say, Harry, just on the back of Andrew's valid points there, what would Tony Popovich want? Obviously, you want direct qualification. And if that happens and we finish second, how many games do you get of quality?
right through to Frank Arnott's team and Eddie's team. You know, even Venables' team to a certain extent.
Mm.
You know, if you look at them, the majority of the boys came from the UK or Europe or South America. So the point I'm going to make is Indonesia, the starting 11 has got about 8 naturalised players in it.
That's right.
Yeah.
8. And they're all European, Croatian, British, you know. And I don't understand why people are so surprised.
No, don't be surprised.
We should be beating them. Why should we be beating them? Our progression in the last 5 years has stopped dead. Asia and Middle East has raced past us at a dramatic level. There's no way in the world we're going to beat Japan. So, sorry, hand on heart. Japan is way too strong for us. The point that Angelo made. Saudi Arabia get the 4 or 5 players back, and we've got to go to Saudi.
See you later.
A huge task.
That's why you got to keep winning.
China is going to be a huge task. Yeah. And let me tell you, you know, I don't see us getting second. I can't for the life of me. Hand on heart, I hope we do, but I don't see it. There's nothing on the way we're playing will tell me that we're capable of winning games. We haven't changed. We don't look any different. You know, we don't look as though we're going to score goals. If Craig Goodwin's not playing, we run out of ideas, creativity. You know, we just plod.
You know, the sad reality, Kenny. The sad reality is that we've just struggled for a consistent scorer since Cale retired, and we just haven't been able to fill that gap. And for whatever reason, we've tried some young guys of African background who obviously, and Mitch Duke and so many others. But it's a difficult task for Tony. So you're trying to counter-attack against opposing teams in Asia, and you don't have that firepower up the top end, that attacking third. We've created some great chances and not taken them. And you touched on Indonesia. It's a very valid point. The other Asian countries have been awake, and we've just, because we've qualified for each World Cup since 2006, but we've always just got there. That's the thing. It's not like we've dominated groups and like Japan are dominating now. And, you know, Indonesia, I remember going there in 2007 commentating the Asian Cup. I walked into that stadium. I shat myself, mate. There was 80,000 people in there.
Yeah, I remember
it too. It was just the most intimidating place that I'd ever been to at that. And I'd been to World Cups and Euros and whatever, and I saw 300 security guys with the big shields and AK-47s at the ready, and I'm like, have I come to a war here? And Saudi Arabia played Indonesia that day, and Saudi Arabia was favourites. So,
honestly.
Yeah. Can I just make a point about, you know, obviously goal scorers, but we really lack creative midfield players, guys.
Yeah.
Seriously. You know, and I have to take task to the point that Tony Popovic, I mean, the reality is that Arnie had the same issue, but no one was saying, oh, Arnie's got the same problem. All of a sudden, everyone's going, oh, Tony's got this. Well, what about Arnie? Arnie had the same issues. What was he supposed to do?
Hey, Kenny, were you surprised? Were you surprised that Arnie didn't look to get a big job after what he did at the last World Cup? Because I thought if there was a moment for him to go into clubland overseas like Ange has done and others, and look at Muskie, oh my God, amazing. Yeah. I just thought that was the time because we did very well. The world is watching. You know,
you're right.
I don't know.
Can I say to you, because obviously, you know, he's a friend of mine. Mate, he loves Australia.
Yeah.
You don't realise that he's, you know, he rolls his sleeves up and he copped that much abuse. You know, and as much as Ange is, I mean, we all adore Ange, but Ange went within half a centimetre of getting knocked out the World Cup
big time.
On the post. And we had to go the long way. And what I admire Ange for is he pulled the plug because he knew with that team he wasn't going to win a game at the World Cup. He's a genius, right? And he moved. And he moved at the right time. God love him. Hey. Arnie, exactly what you said. What Arnie should have, and he had offers, let me tell you. There was offers for me to go to the UK.
Is one in Scotland? What's one in Scotland as well? Hibernian?
He had a couple. Yeah, he had a few. And the reality was that, you know, he wanted to take it through at the end. But I think it got to the point where he's looking at it and going, he's done what he could do. People are blaming him and saying, well, he's getting delivered these players. He's not making the players. This is your elite football players. But he'll get guaranteed. You watch this space. January, February, March. He'll get a big gig.
He'll get a big gig. He's experienced.
I was with him last week. We had a big lunch, and he's coming in. He's relaxing. He's looking fresh. He's looking relaxed. He needed a break. He'll come back with a bounce. Don't worry.
And being a granddad too, that's also always
absolutely.
But talking of Ange, right? I was so proud to see how his team rebounded because I thought if he got dusted at Manchester,
he'd be stuffed.
The guns would have been loaded on Ange Postecoglou, and for me that was one of and probably his greatest club result, with all due respect to what he did in Celtic in a league stage.
The ironic thing, Andy, is Ange was in the Man City environment, right? Obviously, he's gone from even his Japanese team, Celtic. It was all the Man City environment. So to go there, and Pep, how many times did he visit Man City when he was here? People don't realise that he was part of the Man City
football group. At the end, the subtle hug at the end told you enough, didn't it?
Yeah, but he's the problem with Tottenham, and I've got we'll let Angelo come on and speak for a minute soon because we're not giving him much to say. But
exactly,
I have to say I've got heaps of Tottenham fans, but they're liable to next week to go out and get beat by Southampton. That's the. But the interesting fact, I just looked at. I'm not a big stats guy, but they're the top goal scorers in the Premier League at the moment.
Tottenham.
Yep.
There you go.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
The thing is,
I just noticed it today.
Let me tell you about. I didn't want to put up. I found a video of Pep Guardiola after the game. I can't put it up. There's no way I can put that up. You should have seen. You might have seen it, Angelo, and you might. I don't want to put it up. You should have seen the screaming, and it's like the guy needs to go to a mental institution. If I put that up, mate, the way he said things, 4 games in a row, he's throwing things in the room and everything, mate. I don't want to give that to anyone. Andy, I'm serious. Didn't want to put it up. I saw it. I didn't want to put it up. Mate, the pressure on him now is unbelievable. 4 in a row. Is that right, Kenny, too? And Angelo, 4 in a row?
Mate, it could be 6 in a row by next weekend because they've got Champions League on Thursday and then they play Liverpool on Sunday.
Jesus.
So it could be 6.
Mate, he could be gone. Angelo.
I mean, they're missing, mate, De Bruyne, Rodri, when you're missing these type of quality players, Rodri's the best defensive midfield player in the world, in my opinion. And De Bruyne is probably in the top 5 midfield players in the world. Yeah. So when you don't have they two, Haaland's not getting the service.
Nope.
And that's the first time that they've been beaten 4-0 at Etihad in their history.
Jesus, mate, that was bad. Now, Angelo, what's the word in Italy about that game? You've heard a few things around there, of course. You're closer to Europe, you'll be hearing a lot more. But as I said, that video, there's no way I wanted to put it up. Mate, if kids saw that and parents saw that, they'd have a go at me. So what have you heard, Angelo?
Well, I think Andy and Kenny both could locate it, could find it pretty easily. It's actually the first time I've ever seen Guardiola react in a group, and you can see it. For example, if I can just play the whole change room, you can see all the players getting disillusioned, and he's having a go, a real go. And I don't know whether it's going to turn into a positive for the group or negative. As Kenny said, there's the Champions League, and they've got a tough group. But I just want to say something about Matty Ryan, because I was in Adelaide for about 3 weeks, a few weeks ago, and Matty Ryan obviously plays for Roma. Napoli, my favourite team, played Roma last night. But I know that there's a bit of a write-up about Matty Ryan, but he's actually not playing. And I think that's part of the problem. I think he would have made that blunder, in that game. As Andy would know, if a goalkeeper trains the house down, but he doesn't play, there is a problem with this sort of the
pressure.
the speed of the game when the ball comes back. Unfortunately, you can be the best keeper in the world, but if you're going to play for about 6 months, it's going to be a problem, and it was a problem. I think, had he not made that error, maybe we could have won the game. So it was a costly mistake. I just want to say that about Matty Ryan. Very proud to have him here. I feel proud to have players that's in Italy.
I've got to ask you about a terrific Scottish player that Man United let go, McTominay. He's sitting Serie A alive. He's absolutely killing it there. Yeah. I mean, it really puts Man United in a bad light, mate. It really doesn't it?
It does.
Kenny, you'll have to start barracking for Napoli because we got 2 Scotsmen.
Jeez.
We got Gilmore and McTominay.
Who have you got? Oh, you got Gilmore as well. I forgot.
Mate, it's become a Scottish. Are the colours navy blue there too?
And there's another one that I'd dearly love to have at Napoli, but he's playing Bologna, and that's Ferguson. He's captain of Bologna, and they had a stellar season last year. As you know, they made the Champions League. But just going back to some of these games, that the soccer was set up, Andy. You'd be able to answer this better. I think that Tony Popovich will struggle to have a squad good enough to make their second spot. But even if they fail their second spot, having said that, there's 48 teams that qualify for the next year, so they might have another chance. I'm happy with Tony Popovich, but with that squad, I think he's really going to struggle to maintain their second spot.
My over 45, my over 55 team might qualify for the World Cup. The amount of teams that are in it.
I have a message. Boys, I have a message from someone here right now. Of course, I'll tell you who he is as soon as I read it out to you. Enjoying the Football Brains Trust, informative and entertaining. Now, who would say that?
Kenny Taylor?
No, Mark Trento.
Right.
Mark Trento. There you go, boys. Now, let me just say one thing. Go on, Andy.
Sorry, I was just going to say, Harry, just on the back of Andrew's valid points there, what would Tony Popovich want? Obviously, you want direct qualification. And if that happens and we finish second, how many games do you get of quality, of pressure to test your squad and build a squad for the World Cup? Would you prefer to go through that last phase of qualification and have serious matches where you test those players? Honestly. Obviously, everyone wants to qualify straight away, but looking at this, I feel like we're in rebuilding mode in a way.
We are. But let me just tell you what you just said just then about the hard matches and everything, mate. Let me just tell everyone out there right now, guys, how could they make it so easy for New Zealand? How could they make it so easy? They've won all the games. They're winning them. They don't care. They reckon they need one more game to win to qualify. That doesn't make any difference, really, can it? Of course, Oceania.
Harry, I'll tell you why, Harry. They've got one of the greatest informed strikers in world football now.
Is that Wood? There you go. And he's a captain and everything.
He's a freak.
It's only because there's 48 teams in the World Cup. Before New Zealand would have to have gone through South America or Europe to qualify. It's a little bit different. Back in the day when we had to do it, we had to play Argentina, we had to play Uruguay, we had to play Scotland. That was a different animal.
It was.
But I have to say, I don't think we to a great extent we're underperforming. I think, and I'm not being disrespectful, we've got a team of journeymen who give it their best.
They do.
But we don't have any standout players. And going on to Andy's point, I don't think playing more games is going to make any difference.
No,
I think we are what we are. And the reality is, we're not going to set the world alight with the 26 players that we have. Really, we aren't. And unfortunately, the Asian teams and the Middle Eastern teams are racing ahead of us now on development, on money, on coaching, on facilities. Even India, are starting to catch up with us. And we have to come to the reality is that we've been living on this, attitude that we're better than these teams because we were the wealthy, middle class country over this side of the world. It's not changed now. It's not like that anymore.
Let me say one thing. Let me go back. Let me take you guys back in time back to the NSL, the last season of the NSL before the A-League started. And of course, there was a gentleman who spoke. He went up to a certain FL, FL, Frank Lowy, okay? Now, what he said was he was the instigator or the guy who planned the Premier League so many years ago. And Andy, I don't know if you remember this, he said, why don't you guys, he came over, he says, why don't you guys join the Asian Super League that they were trying to put together? You might have heard that, Andy, eh? They were trying to get the Asian Super League together and put teams from Australia in there and mix it up into one league. And there's Eurasia that we could have been in there and could have improved our players and playing against Asian teams all the time. And that was Andy. That was the guy turned up and of course Frank Lowy said no. Well, it's costing us.
Is there talk of a Southeast Asian Champions League?
That's right. There is talk about that again. It's happening again. And not only that, what's happened also, FIFA are actually putting money into a Oceania Champions League, and they've actually, you might have heard that too, guys, where apparently they're asking for expressions of interest from Australian clubs, not your A-League clubs, because they're playing in Asia. Apparently it's NPL clubs to come and play in that league to improve the area of Oceania and Asia, parts of Asia. So the FIFA are putting money into that, Andy, too.
We just keep moving the goalposts, mate.
We're
either in Oceania or we're in. We can't. I mean, that's just absolute bullshit. It's just absolute nonsense.
That's what they're doing.
We can't have NPL teams playing in Oceania and our A-League teams playing in Asia. I mean, really, we can't have our cake and eat it. One or the other. So
2026, and I'll tell you what, some clubs have put in already for that. They've already put some, and I can give you a hint. One club in Adelaide have put in already, so I can't mention that name either.
Yeah, mate.
One club in Adelaide have.
And they may have done.
There is an interesting point that you might have heard about the Super League. Like the last couple of years, they've been talking about a Super League. The Champions, the Super Champions League. And you might remember Agnelli, and Andrea Agnelli got into trouble and he got fired, and then I've going out promoting it with Real Madrid, Florentino Perez, and all that sort of thing. But last year, the Champions League actually changed the format, and it is a Super League type of format.
It is home and away.
In the years gone by. By the 12th of December, 13th of December, they'll be doing the draw of the quarterfinal.
Yeah.
And so
yes.
This year, it goes beyond Christmas. It goes right to the end of January because they've got, the way they work, they've got 36 teams and they've got the same format with the Europa League and the Conference League. The same format. They've got 36 teams. What happens is the top 8 automatically qualified, and then from 9 to 25, they play a home and away to get to find the last 8. The last 12 teams automatically are eliminated and go to the Europa League or the Conference League, that sort of format. And what I want to say, my point is this: I think that there's room to create a similar league in Asia.
Yes,
that confederation, Andy,
trying to do that.
If FIFA did that and invited some of the A-League clubs to participate in that sort of competition, there's more money and there's more room for development, growing, and all that sort of thing.
Exactly. So we've already got the Asian Champions League. We've got that. We've got our teams playing in that. We've basically got the same thing.
But Kenny, the difference is that's the same format that the old Champions League was. What they've done now, they've actually extended that, made it look like a Super League competition where more teams can participate. Right now, how many A-League teams participate in the Asia Champions League?
Yeah, but I've got to say, I'm a purist. The Champions League this year is an absolute disaster with all these games. Half the teams, Man City's and some of these teams are not pushing in certain games. I mean, you'd never have seen Man City getting beat in some of their games if it was the normal structure. But because there's so many games and they know they can get second and third chance to qualify, it changes the landscape completely. It should be look, this is me, the purist in football. That's how I see football. The Champions League and the World Cup is the elite football competitions. 48 teams is a disgrace for me. It's purely a revenue money-making exercise, and you're chasing it across 3 countries. It's an absolute nonsensical idea, and for the purists, you're going to get some horrendous results. Secondly, I've got to say, this Champions League currently, if you ask the average Joe Bloggs in the street, they've got no idea what's going on with it. Yeah. Absolutely no idea. Same with the international ones. You know, Scotland and England. And you would never have seen England getting beaten against Greece.
But Kenny, the other thing is we spoke with Kyle last week, Kyle Patterson, when we spoke about the World Club World Cup. The World Cup, right? The Club World Cup. Yeah. That's happening.
The Club World Cup.
That's what's happening as well. That's all happening. So everywhere we're changing. Everybody wants to get bigger. Everybody wants more money. And Gianni Infantino goes to America. He goes right in front of the crowd there in America, in front of Messi when they won the championship there as well. And he said, and he announced, of course, that team, what they're playing in Miami FC. He said Miami FC will be in the Club World Cup as well. My God, man, he was there to announce it as well. Would you believe? He was there.
The World Club Championships destroyed the greatest cup competition in the world.
The FA Cup. Here we go.
The FA Cup.
I knew that.
Man United pulled out of it, and it's never been the same since.
Oh my God!
It lost its luster.
Guys,
absolutely disgusting.
We know that a lot of.
I'll tell you what. Kenny, I just wanted to say one thing. You know, the format of 48 teams participating, I think that gives the poor Italians a fantastic chance now.
That gives them a chance, mate. Oh my God, mate. Mate. I just want to see.
Spalletti's got to be happy about that because it's an easier path, and obviously Italy almost guaranteed to make it.
Just remember this.
Honest to God, we're going to get Zaire playing Zambia.
Oh my God.
We're going to get. We're going to get.
Kenny, you forgot.
Honest to God,
you forgot. You forgot, Kenny. You forgot now. Don't forget, Oceania got a second spot too. Fiji will play Brazil. That's the other thing too.
It's going to be like the Women's World Cup. It's going to be 16-1 and 15-0.
That's what I'm saying. Fiji will make they'll make the second spot. They'll play against a Latin country, and there you go.
Andy summed it up. He didn't have to say anything. He just did that, and that's exactly what it is,
guys. It's what it is.
We've turned the greatest elite competition, the World Cup, in the world, into just a massive revenue. And the reality is, we're talking about in the Champions League bringing either a Saudi team or a Middle Eastern team into the Champions League.
It's all that.
Really?
It's all money.
I mean, for me, the Eurovision Song Contest ended for me when Australia got in it, right? Yeah. I mean, it's just like the same thing. It's just absolutely nonsensical.
I want to change to the next subject, gentlemen, because I tell you what, this is the most amazing competition that we had in Sydney on Saturday. We had the Kenny, don't look up in the sky, please. Don't look up in the sky, please, because I have a solution. I have a solution to this.
All right, man. I've just bit my tongue. I'm good. I've bit my tongue.
I have a solution to this, guys. Let me tell you right now. What it reminded me of was COVID. It reminded me of the days of COVID when there was nobody at the games and they were putting up cutouts of people. Can't we do that right now? Let's go back to the case of COVID. Let's put what they did in the Premier League. They put cutouts of people in everywhere to fill it up and everything. Can't we do that? Can we do that? Can we do that, Andy, at all? What can we do with this competition, mate?
Mate, I've got to say, people argue with me, and they've been arguing with me for years and years. We've got a league format here that we copied from rugby league and AFL, which is a grand final, right? So I'm happy with that. If we're going that way, all good. The rest of the world, predominantly, I know America a little bit, but predominantly, first past the post is the best team. They're the champions.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm good. I'll accept that. But what I don't accept is that AFL and NRL grand finals in Sydney, no matter who makes it. AFL is in Melbourne, regardless of who makes it.
You can't copy.
We try and create some sort of history, an iconic event, and everyone's up in arms and say, "Oh, you can't have it in Sydney. Let's wait to see who wins it, and we'll move it around." It's like the Harlem Globetrotters. It's like a travelling circus. You can't do that. Really. Like that thing at the weekend. You're bringing two New Zealand teams here. You've got Adelaide playing Brisbane to a 3/4 empty stadium relevantly. I mean, you got 30,000 for the derby. You would have got that anyway, maybe more. You know, so I don't understand the logic. I mean, people say, "Oh, it was to appease Sydney because they took the grand final away."
Tourism New South Wales. Tourism New South Wales. Yes.
Unite round, bringing all these, and who's paying for all that? Shipping them all in.
I don't know,
who's paying for the TV team?
What the mistake is this, guys? This is the mistake out there that's going on here right now. Instead of saying let's turn up to these games in Sydney, can't they put? They can't get some kind of group bookings, tour bookings, and stuff like this. Get hotel packages and things. They do that in Adelaide for the AFL, and of course that happens in Queensland where they do that magic round in Queensland. Andy, you know they do specific things to get people there. There has to be something else, Andy. So they do these tours.
I was there for all 3 days. I went to the Sydney Derby for a period of time. I was invited. It was interesting. I spoke in that room with Nathan Kosmina from Adelaide, Sam Kristovich from Macarthur, and a few other people. Okay, from Football New South Wales, and to Isaac, Football Australia chair. The way I would do it, and this is a Unite round. It's to bring all the fans together, and I could see how good it was for the fans to cross over. So I would probably condense it into 2 days, and I would have 3 games back to back, not spread out too much. I would say 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock kickoffs. Do your 3 games, get all that crowd in, and keep them in.
One game.
So instead of spreading the love over 3 days with double headers, bang. And then on the flip side, we had a situation where Leichhardt Oval's pitch was not acceptable, so the W League had to make that decision to shift their games into Cogra, where when Sydney FC's women's team played, there was 5,000 or 6,000 people there. I have friends there as well.
Yes.
Because that's my local association at St George, where I'm a life member at San Susie. So if I was in a boardroom and they said, Andy, what do you reckon? Bring it in 2 days and really try and make it 3 games that are relevant.
But how many Kiwis? How many Kiwis? How many South Australians? How many Victorians have come up for it?
No.
Yeah, you're not going to get many travellers, unfortunately.
No.
I did meet travellers, Kenny, from Wellington and Auckland, but it wasn't in the thousands.
No.
You know what I mean?
But the point I'm making is, what's the point of it? If you're going to do it, save it for a grand final in Sydney or Melbourne and have a massive event like Wembley or San Siro, or and make it, offer tour packages to bring it if your team makes it.
Honestly, in the perfect world, you know how you said something historically about rugby league and AFL?
Yes.
Wouldn't it be great if we had that stadium, say it was at Homebush for the next 3 years, and we saw what happened with the government of New South Wales and the A-Leagues being forced to shift it again because of all the social media ranting and raving? Wouldn't it be great? You want to talk about unity and uniting the ground, uniting the game. What if you turn around and said, okay, for the grand final, every club is going to be given to their members free admission to the grand final. Then it's up to them to come to Sydney and spend a weekend celebrating football. They can't complain then. They've been given a grand final. Each club has got 5,000 tickets for their club members. Their club members. And I guarantee you, if they know that at the start of the season, the club members are going to be bidding within their club to say, I want a ticket to the A-League final. I don't know who's going to be in there. I hope our team is, but I'm going away with 3 of my mates that are members that I sit next to every home game for the last 10, 15 years. Then you'll get your unity. Then you'll get your real football fan going. It won't be what I call the fence-sitting fan. The fence-sitting fan is that fan that gets invited to a game because they've got a free ticket. They've got a free ticket in the corporates or wherever they've got. And we never see them again. I don't want them at football. We don't need you, mate. We want real football fans being looked after by the game. So maybe that should be something they should look at in the future. A-League Grand Final at one location. We all know before the season starts, that's where the Grand Final is. No negotiation. But as a league, we're acknowledging the importance of the membership base. Whether it's 5,000 tickets or 2,500 tickets, whatever it is, it's a level playing field. And then for that final, The 2 teams that qualify get 20,000 tickets each.
Let me.
It's interesting. The point you made about the W League. They should be playing the W League before the A League.
Absolutely.
Every week they should be playing at the same stadium. 1 o'clock kickoff.
Yeah, and curtain raiser, simple as that. And that's what happens in the NPL. Sometimes the girls play before the men's games, and they do that too down there.
Absolutely.
They do it now.
Harry, how many times in the old NSL did we get there early to watch the youth league game?
Exactly.
To get a feeling, get our food, meet our mates, chat away.
Have your lunch.
We're getting ready for
exactly. The souvlaki's as you walk, the smell made you crazy.
It was normally 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock from memory.
That's right.
Yes, 3 o'clock. That's right.
Mate, I've got to tell you a quick funny story. Every time I see a relatively young bloke, he tells me he was a ball boy at Sydney Olympic. I've met about 5,000 of them.
Jesus Christ.
5,000 of them were ball boys at Sydney Olympic.
Mate.
Kenny, I remember you at Sydney Olympic. I was a ball boy. There's millions of them.
Unbelievable.
Absolutely millions of them.
Unbelievable.
Why not,
and I think they're all Yanni's kids. I think they're all Yanni's kids, right?
Jesus,
mate. Yanni, he used to look after all the balls.
You remember?
He was lovely.
I want to tell Andy, we're going to say a cheerio at the Brunswick City Soccer Club. They call themselves Soccer Club. Don't call them Football Club. You enjoyed your time down there, of course. We spoke, we did things.
Mate.
What a day that was, at Brunswick City.
A couple of highlights for me. The first one was being on your show.
Yes.
Dead heat. Was watching that souvla.
Oh, mate.
And the meat being sliced off.
Oh, mate. You gave me a picture. You gave me a video of it. Put the video up on the film.
But you know, what a great community model. You've got the kids doing their coaching on one side of the pitch.
Exactly.
You've got the NPL games there. And it's free entry.
Yes.
How that club survives, how that NPL club survives, because the Greenies have taken control of that suburb. The Greenies have said that field has to be left open so we can walk our dogs so they can drop their number 2s and you clean them up at training.
They've got
it. Before I forget, can I just give a quick nudge again for Elia's GoFundMe page? I know I mentioned it before, but just to give it a bit of a kick, she needs our help. She needs our support. So anyone that hasn't had the opportunity and is able, anything would be wonderful.
That's right.
She needs our support. She's a wonderful human being. Just needs a bit of help from us.
Exactly. And
absolutely, Elia, she's an unsung hero in the game.
Absolutely.
She's done a lot of work.
It's not just the last couple of years. It's not just the last couple of years she's been engaging in the game. She's been there for decades.
She's done
a lot of things.
Anthony Siokas has done a fantastic. He's been driving the GoFundMe page and badges. He got his badges last week, and he's been absolutely unbelievable. Pushing it, exactly.
And Graham Arnold spoken. Graham Arnold has spoken as well. Now saw the video.
Yeah, we filmed that. We filmed that the other day at the lunch. Yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah. Everyone that was there, Stephen Kamaz, everyone that was there,
Can I tell you something, right? And I'll tell you something, right? And I don't think Elia would mind me saying this, because obviously she's a volunteer of our charity Heartbeat of Football as well, a valued member. The people that we have found out that are put down anonymous with their donations, I'll just say a shout out to Ange Postacoglu. He was one significant donor, okay? And there's a lot of others of that ilk in different elements of the game that don't want that publicity because they're there for Elia. And there's a couple of people close to my charity, the same thing, that have done that, and it's applaudable because I've visited Elia. I was overseas, so I'm scheduled to catch up with her this week, hopefully before her next treatment, and to see the financial burden she's been going through and not having regular work, and she's doing all this pretty much volunteer stuff for the game, whether it's my charity or events or whatever it is. I don't know how she does it, but she has told me time and time again that GoFundMe page has saved her. But we have to keep it going because we don't know what lies ahead.
That's correct.
Exactly. That's it, boys.
All good.
Now, boys, thank you for joining me tonight. Go on, Angela, please. Angela, want to say something?
I just want to say Elia's an unsung hero. I've spoken to her many, many times, and as Andy mentioned, she's got many, many friends, and she told me so many stories about Les Murray and Johnny Warren and everybody else, and she's done a colossal amount of work, and she certainly deserves a contribution, whether it's small or large. I think we should all unite on this and really support Aaliyah, because these types of things, like tomorrow you might regret
exactly
not doing it. So I think that, I wish her all the very, very best. I've written to her privately and, trying to keep her head up high.
Yeah.
But, the support means a lot.
It does.
Yeah.
And just pledge everybody to unite and make a contribution to Aaliyah.
Well said, Angelo, and also a special shout out for a legend of the game I first met 40 years ago, Stefan Kamaz, who's got his own fight at the moment.
Exactly,
as well.
seen him. Exactly.
Yeah, definitely Steph.
We're gonna.
I just wanted to say one thing quickly about the Unite round that we had, just very, very quickly. I think Andy covered most of the areas. I just think that there's a lack of marketing in there as well, because, as you mentioned, the AFL does a
massive
in Adelaide.
Yeah.
If you can actually extend the games to the regional areas.
Yes.
For example, the AFL's, they play a game in Mildura, which is about 300 k's from Adelaide. They play in regional areas and where they can get capacity of about 10,000, but they fill the stadium.
Exactly.
And I think that this is the first opportunity the A-League's had. Keep it going, but just do a bit more marketing and maybe go out to the community. I mean, Andy mentioned about the Preston and the game Brunswick, for example, that are very community focused.
Exactly.
And I think that's another lacking in the A-League, being more community focused, going out to the community.
We hope to do something at Brunswick City again. Of course, Andrew, some more stuff, Andy, at Brunswick City. I've been talking with the boys. They're pretty happy with what they're doing. And, of course, mate, it was a success that night. How many people, mate, how many people turned up that night and bang, 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 or whatever it was? Mate, they got me, they got you, they got Tony Goodwin that night. Tony as well. He was up high too, so unbelievable. That was amazing.
And also the wonderful CEO of Football Victoria, Chris Pellavanis.
Yes, Chris Pellavanis, a big thing for him to turn up as well.
Just one last comment on Ange. Very good points about moving it out of the capitals. The only issue I have at the moment, because the A-League's a summer sport, all those NPL clubs are not set at the moment. They're in pre-season mode.
Exactly.
And that's the sad reality of it. If it was the situation where you could tap into that market to get the bums on the seats and that level of support,
well,
it would work.
That's what we're going to.
We're in off season.
We're going to see that. Yeah. We're going to see the Champions League model type thing during. Of course, they're saying next season, which will be in October, November, December. There'll be games played for the second tier to see how that goes, and we'll be summer. We're going to see games in summer, so it'll be fantastic. That'll be another thing too as well. So, guys, thank you for joining me tonight. Thank you, Andrew. Of course, Angelo, always from Italy, Naples, direct, and of course, Kenny from Sydney. Thanks, boys, for joining me tonight on Football Less. We'll see you guys next week. There's some more things happening next week for you guys as well. Thanks, guys, for joining us.
Man.
Oh, boy.